It's MED Monday! Today, 10 killer poker cash game strategies. Everybody studies on Monday, so welcome to the 33rd Minimum Effective Dose Monday episode. Today's article comes to us from upswingpoker.com, and the name of the article is 10 Cash Game Poker Tips for Dominating the Table. And it was written by Dan B. over there, published on September 7th, just a little while ago now. So this article has 10 full tips, and after the tips, there's actually 2 additional kind of audio-based tips, one from Doug Polk and one from Ryan Fee. Now, I'm not going to read all of the 10 tips for you, nor am I going to play those 2 additional audio tips. What I'm going to do is I'm going to choose the 4 most, what I think are the most beneficial poker tips. I'm going to read those to you, along with the intro and the outro of the article. But I really do recommend that you go to the show notes page for today, smartpokerstudy.com/medmonday. Go there, episode 33, click on the link to take you directly to this article. Once again, it's from upswingpoker.com, and the article is called 10 Cash Game Poker Tips for Dominating the Table. I think all 10, as well as the 2 additional audio-based tips, those are definitely worth your time to read and to listen to. But just in the podcast, I'm not going to give you all of them. I'm going to give you the top 4. And then following that, I'm going to give you the minimum effective dose idea. Now, that's the critical concept to take away and apply to your poker game and to your studies. The second thing I'm going to give you is the minimum effective dose action. That's the one thing that you must do this week to boost your poker to the next level. Alrighty, now for some words from Dan over there at upswingpoker.com. Gambate!
I presume a crisp high five?
For you, 10. Okay, guys, let's get out there and make a difference. You know what to do.
10 cash game poker tips for dominating the table. Do you plan on playing a cash game anytime soon? You're in luck! Today we'll cover 10 fundamental tips that will help you dominate your cash game competition. You'll learn when to bluff on the flop, how to play versus limpers, and more. And make sure you stay tuned until the end for 2 bonus audio tips from 2 poker strategy masterminds, Doug Polk and Ryan Fee. Let's dive in. Cash game tip number 1. Avoid bloating the pot with medium strength hands. Use them to bluff catch. And I will read this entire tip. Medium strength hands are often the toughest to play. When holding these hands, you should usually check because they perform well in smaller pots as bluff catchers. Thus, medium strength hands will often be the hands you use to bluff catch. Let me give you a few examples. Jack 10 on the Jack 8-6 board, Ace 4 on the Ace 8-5 board, and 8-7 on the King 8-4 board. These are solid hands, but they shrivel up when multiple bets or raises start flying into the pot. Consequently, checking at least one street, oftentimes on the flop, is the best approach with these hands. Now, keep in mind that if your opponent has shown weakness by checking back or checking to you twice, these hands go up in value because your opponent would likely have bet his stronger hands. This is usually when you should start betting with them in order to extract value. And tip number 2, I'm going to read this entire tip. Mostly bet when you have a strong hand. When you're holding a strong top pair or better, you should most often bet. These hands want to build the pot because they're a favorite to win. These are the hands that will represent your value betting range. Some examples: Ace King on the King 10-5 board, King 10 on the 10-8-6 board, and Pocket Queens on the Jack 10-7 board. Note that you want to choose hands that can comfortably triple barrel for value on most board runouts. Cash game tip number 3, and I'm going to read this entire one for you. Bluff on the flop with hands that have good backdoor potential. When you have a hand with good backdoor, or runner-runner potential, you should very likely bet as a bluff. You want to choose hands that can turn a strong draw and potentially hit a flush or straight by the river. These types of hands work very well as bluffs because they can hit very disguised strong hands. Here are some examples. 7 of spades, 6 of spades on the Ace 9-3 1-spade board. This can turn a strong draw on any 5, 8, or a spade. It can also turn a gut shot on any 4 or a 10. Another board, the Jack of diamonds, 8 of diamonds on the Queen of diamonds, 7 of spades, 5 of spades board. This can turn a strong draw on any 6 or a diamond. It can also turn a gut shot on any 4, 9, or 10. The last one is Queen 6 of clubs on the King 7-5 1 club board. This can turn a strong draw on any 4, 8, or a club. It can also turn a gut shot on any 9 or a 3 on the turn. Note that with these hands you will only continue barreling on the turn when you improve to an actual draw. Cash game tip number 4. You should almost always 3-bet when you have a premium hand. Cash game tip 5. Check the flop a lot in multi-way pots. And cash game tip number 6, I'm going to read this one. Bet a lot when you're heads up and in position. In heads up pots, you should frequently take a stab at the pot from in position, and when your opponent has shown weakness by checking instead of c-betting. This type of bet is called a float bet. This bluff typically works well against weaker players because they fail to protect their checking range, choosing to check with only weak hands. Be wary, though, of float betting against strong players who are capable of checking good hands. When this strategy is unsuccessful, it can end up costing you a lot of money. Cash game tip number 7. Check raise on the flop with your strongest hands after defending your big blind. Cash game tip number 8. Always warm up before a session or tournament. Cash game tip number 9. Be smart about losing sessions. And cash game tip number 10. Take advantage of limpers. And the 2 audio tips, the first was from Doug Polk, and here it is. Play with what you can afford to lose. And Ryan Fee's tip? Try to be the most aggressive player at the table.
Okay, all done.
That was awesome.
You can always learn more about each of these by just visiting the article for yourself. Once again, go to the show notes page, smartpokerstudy.com/MEDmonday. Or I'm sure you can find it by just going to upswingpoker.com. So here is the MED idea, the one thing that you must take away from the podcast. Bet a lot when heads up and in position. This is applicable both for value and as bluffs. If they know you value bet your best hands, they're more prone to fold. If they know you c-bet bluff a lot, they can call with worse hands when you have them crushed. And if they know you're capable of both, they'll have a harder time dissecting and exploiting your play while in game. And the MED action, remember, this is the one thing that you must do this week, if nothing else, in order to get at least a little bit of something from this article here. Here it is. Do not slow play, but instead, build the pot when you likely have the best hand. Your opponents bluff a ton, and they see this same tendency in their opponents. Because of this, they're less likely to believe you nowadays, and you can gain even more value than ever before from these non-believers. Well, thank you so much for listening today. And of course, thanks over there to Dan at upswingpoker.com for writing this really good article. 10 tips plus an additional 2 from Doug Polk and Ryan Fee. I highly recommend that you check it out. And even if you don't want to check out the article, if you've never been to upswingpoker.com before, you've got to go. Make sure to subscribe to their newsletter. They have tons of strategy content, videos, articles, and stuff. And then, of course, their newsletter tells you everything new that comes out. And it's definitely worth subscribing to. So you can listen to this and every other MED Monday episode by visiting smartpokerstudy.com/MED Monday. Please send me any questions via email, sky@smartpokerstudy.com. And don't forget, my newest book is out, Preflop Online Poker, and it's available in every single format on Amazon. So later this week in episode 205, I'm going to give you the 5 critical areas that every no-limit hold'em beginner must focus on. So until then, apply the MED idea to the rest of your game and practice the MED action all week long.